The cry that shouldn't have been heard. The forest was supposed to be silent, but just past the fog treetops and down a narrow slope where no trails were marked, a cry broke through the quiet. Soft, weak, but not imagined. Not an animal, not wind, a baby. Lucas Hale, 39, paused mid-step on the damp, moss-covered trail. His hiking boots sank slightly into the earth. He wasn't here for nature therapy. This was his private land he'd bought to be left alone on weekends, away from boardrooms, investors, and people who smiled with knives in their hands. He came for silence, not screams. There it was again, a second cry, higher, more frantic. He dropped the phone from his ear. "Call you back," he muttered to no one, hanging up before his assistant could respond. He stepped off the trail, brushing branches away, boots crunching fallen twigs as the sound drew him deeper into the woods. His chest grew tight. Something was wrong. Not animal wrong, human wrong. When he reached the edge of a shallow ravine, he stopped cold. A fallen tree lay across the trench, hollowed out by rot and time. Nestled inside, like a scene from a nightmare dressed as a fairy tale, were two infants, wrapped in what looked like a hospital blanket, their cheeks red and blotchy, lips trembling from cold. Twins, barely days old. Lucas knelt beside them, removing his jacket and tucking it around them with shaking hands. "Jesus Christ," he whispered, his voice cracking as the infants cried louder now, as if sensing safety. Their tiny fists opened and closed. One had a bruise near the temple, the other a scratch along the cheek. Both were freezing, but alive. No bag, no bottle, no signs of anyone else, except a note, folded once, bloodied at the edges and pinned beneath a smooth stone. Lucas's heart punched his ribs as he opened it. "Forgive me. They don't deserve what I've done." His stomach dropped. He stood up and scanned the trees. Nothing. No footsteps, no sounds, but his own breath. This wasn't just a case of a desperate woman. This was something darker. He pulled his phone from his pocket and dialed 911. 3 hours earlier, Maya Bell hadn't planned to live through this day. The ache in her chest was different than the usual hopelessness. It was final, like everything inside her had shut down. She drove with both hands clenched around the steering wheel, her knuckles white. The car's heat barely worked, and the cold crept in from every angle. The twins, fast asleep in their carrier behind her, had no idea where they were going, or why. Maya blinked against the tears blurring her vision. This road led to nowhere. Literally. It wasn't on GPS. It wasn't even gravel anymore, just mud, pine needles, and her memories. She had come here once when she was pregnant to cry in peace without anyone seeing her swollen belly or hearing her scream. Now she was back with her babies, but this time she didn't plan to scream. She planned to disappear. They deserved better. Not a mother who couldn't keep a roof over their heads. Not one who had no job, no support, and no family who would even pick up the phone anymore, and certainly not a father like Jeremy. She gritted her teeth at the thought of him. Jeremy, the charming liar who had promised to marry her, who had laughed with her while choosing baby names, who had vanished after the 30-week scan, and who she'd later found out was already married to the CEO's niece, and got promoted. Lucas Hale's company. Maya's hand tightened on the wheel. She had applied for a job there, a desk clerk position. She was overqualified, but she would have taken anything. But her application was ignored. Worse, she got an email addressed to someone else. Reject that one. No drama. She'd stared at the screen for hours. It didn't say her name, but it didn't have to. That was the moment she realized. No one was going to help her. Not the company, not Jeremy, not even the city shelters, which were full and overrun. So, she chose the only thing left to give her babies a chance. A clean slate. Maybe someone would find them. Maybe they'd be rescued and adopted. Maybe they wouldn't grow up watching their mother starve so they could eat. Her heart cracked at the thought. Maya pulled over near a curve in the trees and turned off the engine. The woods swallowed the sound. She climbed out, opened the backseat door, and lifted the twins gently, their tiny faces peaceful in sleep. She walked a few yards into the trees, found a sheltered hollow in the base of an old tree, and carefully set them down. "Mommy loves you," she whispered, placing their favorite stuffed bear between them. Her lips brushed their foreheads. Each, one soft, perfect, and warm. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Please forgive me." She placed the folded note beside them, weighed it down with a stone, and turned away. Because if she looked back, she wouldn't leave. And if she didn't leave, they would die anyway. Maya ran, coat flapping behind her, breath sharp, vision swimming. Her sobs broke through the silence, but only the trees heard. Present-day paramedics huddled around the twins as Lucas stood to the side, eyes on the note. He hadn't shown them the security footage yet. The cameras on this side of the property weren't even supposed to be on, but one had glitched into recording. And what it showed, he knew that woman, not just from the note, not just from her face. Maya Bell, the woman who had applied for a job at his company, the woman whose resume he had seen because she'd been the top candidate on the list until someone filtered her out. The woman who, a year earlier, had approached him at a public meeting, eyes full of quiet rage, and said something. He didn't forget. "I hope you remember me when you realize who you protected." At the time, he'd brushed it off. Now, as he stared at the blood-stained apology note, Lucas realized something chilling. She hadn't run because she wanted to. She ran because she was being hunted. Later, that night, Maya sat at the edge of an old bus terminal on the south side of town, her hood up, her face pale. She hadn't stopped crying since she left the forest. She couldn't go home. Jeremy had already filed charges for harassment when she'd asked for child support, and she had no real home anyway. Her body ached, her chest burned, her hands were scratched from the woods, but she was alive, and she hated herself for it. Then she saw it. The news, a headline flashing across the terminal's old screen. "Twins found alive in private woods. Billionaire CEO involved in rescue." Maya's heart stopped. She stood slowly, walking closer to the screen. There he was, Lucas Hale, standing. Behind paramedics in the image, jacket off, face tense, holding one of her babies in his arms. He knew. He must have seen her, or the note. Or worse, the cameras. She turned and ran, vanishing into the shadows. Back at Hale Estate, Lucas poured himself a drink, hands shaking slightly. His security chief had just sent the full footage. He watched it again, frame by frame, Maya stepping out of the car, holding the babies, kissing them goodbye, leaving the note, and then something else. A man, tall, in a hoodie, watching from the trees minutes after Maya left, not coming to help, just watching. Lucas hit pause, zoomed in, tried to enhance the image. He couldn't see the face clearly, but the way the man moved, the height, the posture, it was so familiar. He turned to his encrypted laptop and opened an internal company file. Jeremy Trent, the rising executive. Married to Lucas's niece. Lucas's blood ran cold, because if it was Jeremy in the woods that morning, it meant Maya wasn't just abandoned, she was being silenced, and the twins were never meant to be found alive. He shouldn't have been. In those woods, Lucas Hale couldn't sleep. The fire in the hearth crackled softly behind him, but the warmth barely touched him. He sat alone in the vast study of his mountain estate, the security footage frozen on his screen. There it was, again. The shadow of a man moving between the trees just minutes after Maya Bell left her twins in the hollow. His face was hidden, but his walk, his body language, Lucas had seen that gait too many times. Jeremy Trent, rising star, department head of Hale Technologies Development Division, married to Lucas's niece, Callie, always clean-cut, always charming, but something didn't sit right. And now, with that image burned into his brain, Lucas couldn't ignore the dread spreading in his chest. He hit rewind and replayed it. Maya, scared, desperate, kissing her babies goodbye, leaving them with a blood-smeared note. Then gone, and, just 2 minutes later, the figure appeared, staring at the twins, not helping, not approaching, just watching, then disappearing back into the trees. Lucas had spent decades learning to trust his instincts. And right now, they were screaming. This wasn't a coincidence, and it wasn't over. Across town, abandoned church. Shelter Maya Bell didn't know how she was still walking. Her feet were raw from running, her stomach cramped from not eating. Her arms ached to hold her babies, but she couldn't go to the hospital or the police. If Jeremy was behind this, he'd find her. She'd been hiding for 2 days now, living off vending machine crackers and water fountains, wearing the same hoodie, avoiding cameras, staying invisible. She'd checked the news when she could. The babies were safe, in custody, no charges filed yet. But it wouldn't last. She had to tell someone, not the police. They'd never believe her. Not after what Jeremy had already done, framing her as unstable, filing harassment reports, accusing her of threatening his real family. No, if she wanted the truth out, she needed someone with power, with something to lose. Someone whose silence couldn't be bought. There was only one person who fit that description, Lucas Hale. Lucas's office. 12th floor, Hale Technologies. It was late evening when Lucas arrived at the office. He told his assistant not to alert anyone. He needed to see Jeremy face to face, not with lawyers, not with board members, alone. He buzzed into the executive floor, past the dark glass doors, and entered the sleek, cold office where Jeremy sat reviewing proposals. Jeremy looked up, surprised. "Lucas? Didn't know you were in town." Lucas walked in slowly, hands in. His pockets, "I wasn't, until I found 2 newborns left in my woods." Jeremy blinked. "Right. Wild story. That poor girl, huh?" Lucas tilted his head. "Poor girl." Jeremy gave a careful smile. "I saw it on the news. Some unstable. Single mom, right? And probably on drugs. It's tragic." Lucas didn't smile. "Her name was Maya Bell." Jeremy nodded quickly. "Yeah, was. Some girl I used to see a long time ago. Total mistake. She tried to show up at Callie's charity event. Once real crazy." Lucas sat across from him. "And were you in my woods last Sunday morning, Jeremy?" The question hit like a bomb. Jeremy's jaw twitched. "What? My property? Where the babies were found. Were you there?" Jeremy's face darkened. "Why the hell would I be in the middle of nowhere?" Lucas leaned forward, quiet but firm. "Because there's footage of a man near those babies, same build, same posture, right after Maya left them, watching, not helping." Jeremy's voice rose. "This is insane. Are you accusing me of something now?" Lucas didn't blink. "Should I be?" Jeremy stood up. "I have no idea what you're implying. But I'm married to your niece and I've led your department. To 3 years of record growth. If you want to throw that away for some unhinged girl who... Those children are yours, aren't they?" Lucas interrupted. Silence. Jeremy's fists clenched. "That's what this is," Lucas said quietly. "You got her pregnant, lied to her. Then when she wouldn't disappear quietly, you made sure no one would hire her. You pushed her to the edge, and when she still wouldn't give up, you followed her to those woods." Jeremy's eyes flared. "There's no proof," Lucas stood. "There will be. Later that night, Lucas's car, parked in an alley. Maya waited behind a rusted gate, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. When she saw the dark SUV pull up and the window roll down, she froze. Then he stepped out. Lucas Hale. He looked taller in person, colder, but his eyes softened slightly when they met hers. "I thought you'd run further," he said. Maya didn't speak for a long time. "I almost did," she said finally, "but then I saw the news. You didn't tell them it was me." Lucas nodded. "Not yet." Maya swallowed. "Why?" "Because something about this doesn't feel right. and I need. The truth, all of it. She looked down. You won't believe me. Try me, so she did. She told him about the pregnancy. The rejection, the silence, the legal threats, the eviction notice, the job application she saw get deleted. The night Jeremy showed up outside her shelter and told her she'd never win, and the message he left her after she gave birth. You should have gotten rid of them when you had the chance. Lucas didn't move. Why didn't you report it? He asked softly. I did, Maya said. Twice. They said I was trying to ruin his life. One cop even called me bitter. I stopped trying. Lucas looked away, jaw tight. There's more, Maya said, reaching into her coat. She pulled out an envelope, worn, bent. I found this in his glove compartment the last time he followed me. It's a sealed DNA test, proving he's their father. Lucas took it. And you still left them? He asked, voice low but not cruel. Tears filled her eyes. I didn't want them to die with me. He nodded slowly. They're safe. But CPS is watching closely. You'll need help getting them back, Maya blinked. What? Lucas stepped closer. If you're telling the truth, I'll help you. But we do this smart, legal, strategic. You'll need proof, witnesses, protection. Her voice cracked. Why would you help me? Lucas looked out into the night. Because someone in my family might have tried to kill yours. Following week, Lucas's private investigation launches. Within days, Lucas had quietly hired a private investigator, one he trusted from a past corporate espionage case. The man delivered fast. Jeremy had wired $10,000 from a secret account to a man known for cleanups. No name, just a code. The transaction happened 2 days before the babies were found. Lucas's security footage was enhanced, enough to suggest a match with Jeremy's build and shoes. Then came the biggest break. A voicemail Maya had saved, forwarded from her friends. Burner phone. Jeremy's voice. You're playing with fire, Maya. If you care about those kids, keep them far away. Accidents happen in the woods. Lucas heard it 3 times. Then he made the decision. He was going to war. 2 days later, emergency board meeting. Hale Technologies. Callie Trent, Lucas's niece, sat stunned at the head of the glass table. Jeremy stood beside her, arms crossed, face pale. Lucas stood at the other end holding a file of evidence. The board members leaned forward. I didn't want it to come to this, Lucas said, but this company doesn't protect predators, and we do not cover up attempted murder. He dropped the file onto the table. Jeremy exploded. That's fake. You believe her over me? Callie turned sharply. Jeremy, whose children are they? His silence said everything. She stood up and walked out. Jeremy tried to follow her. But 2 security guards stepped in. Mr. Trent, one of the board members said, your employment is terminated, effective immediately. Lucas watched him go, face unreadable. But inside, he was already planning the next move. Later, that night, Hospital Maya stood at the glass, staring at the 2 tiny bundles in the nursery. A nurse smiled beside her. They've been doing better every day. We'll be releasing them soon. Maya swallowed hard. And do I get them back? Shiudaki. Nurse hesitated. There's a hearing, but someone powerful submitted a character affidavit on your behalf. That helps. Behind her, a familiar voice spoke softly. I pulled some strings with a family judge. They're moving it up. Maya turned. Lucas stood behind her, hands in his coat pockets. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Don't say anything. Yet, he replied, not until you're safe, not until they're home. Her eyes filled. Why are you doing this? Lucas looked through the glass at the babies. I think I used to be someone who would have ignored you. Now I want to be someone who doesn't. Final scene. Hidden apartment unknown. Caller Jeremy stared at the screen. News outlets were calling it a scandal. His wife was divorcing him. His job was gone. His secret exposed. He hurled the glass at the wall. But then, his burner phone. Buzzed unknown number, just a single message. She's not safe yet. You know what to do. He stared at it. Then slowly he smiled. If she testifies, we're both dead. The judge's voice echoed across the quiet courtroom. I hereby grant temporary custody of twins Ava and Eli Bell to their biological mother Maya Bell, effective immediately. Maya's knees buckled. For a second she didn't even breathe. The courtroom was so still, it felt like time froze. The social worker nodded gently at her, and a tear slid down Maya's cheek. She turned slowly to look at Lucas Hale, sitting in the back row, his arms crossed, expression unreadable. He gave her a single nod. It was done. She had her babies back. But as Maya stepped out of the courtroom, holding Ava in one arm, while Eli slept against her chest, she couldn't shake the chill crawling up her spine. Someone was watching. Again. One day earlier, unknown location, the motel room smelled of mildew and old smoke. Jeremy Trent paced the faded carpet, jaw tight, a cigarette trembling between his fingers. He hadn't slept. He hadn't eaten. And now that the media had chewed him up, he had nothing left except rage. She got them back, he growled, watching a clip of the custody hearing on a cracked phone screen. That lying little... A man in a grey coat, sitting in the corner chair, calmly sipped his coffee. You're the one who left them alive, Jeremy spun. You said it was handled. No, the man replied. I said she wouldn't go to the cops. I never said she'd find a billionaire with a conscience. Jeremy threw the phone at the wall. It shattered. I want her gone, he hissed. And I don't care how. The man leaned forward, setting his coffee down. You understand what you're asking, right? He said. Because once we start this, there's no reversing it. Jeremy didn't flinch. If she testifies, we're both dead. Present day, Lucas's mountain estate. Lucas watched Maya feeding the twins in the warm morning light. They were wrapped in soft blue and pink blankets, nestled against her arms like they belonged there all along. You're better at this than you think, Lucas said quietly. Maya gave a tired smile. I used to practice with rolled-up towels before they were born. He raised a brow. Towels? She nodded. In the shelter. There were no baby dolls, so I used what I had. One girl thought I was crazy, said I should give them up, but I just couldn't. Lucas studied her. Why didn't you? Her hands trembled a little, but she didn't stop feeding the babies. Because no one else would love them like I do, she said, even if I was broke, even if I was scared. Lucas sat across from her. I've got a team looking into Jeremy's off-books contacts. His finances are a mess, but there's something deeper, something I missed. Maya looked up. Do you think he's still watching? Lucas nodded slowly. Yes, and if he is, he won't stop. Maya looked down at her twins. Then I guess I can't stop either. Later that night, Lucas's home office. Lucas stared at the report his investigator just delivered. Photos, transactions, names. One stood out. Victor Malenko, a known fixer, ex-military, tied to off-grid disappearances, connected to 2 former executives who vanished after whistleblowing against their companies, and now linked to Jeremy through a wire transfer and encrypted email. Lucas ran his hands through his hair. This wasn't just about saving face. Jeremy had hired a man who made people disappear, and Maya had just gone public with her court win. She was now the biggest threat. Lucas picked up the phone. Double. The security around the estate. No one in or out without clearance. And get me Victor's last known burner location. Tonight. Downtown safe house. Maya's temporary apartment. The babies were asleep. Maya finally exhaled, curling up on the couch, blanket around her, staring at the TV, but not watching it. Everything still felt unreal. Yesterday she was sleeping on floors. Now she had heat, a stocked fridge, protection, and someone who believed her. But the fear hadn't left, not when she walked past windows, not when the hallway lights flickered, not when her phone buzzed at 2 a.m. with a blocked number and no message. She locked every Window. Then she checked on the twins for the third time. Both were breathing softly, curled up like little angels. But when she looked through the peephole, there was a black car parked across the street. Again, same night, unknown. Rooftop Jeremy sat on a rooftop, staring through a long-range lens at the apartment below. The babies, the woman, the life that should have stayed buried. He lowered the scope and looked at Victor, standing beside him. "She's got Hale watching over her," Victor said. "Tight security, no digital trail. We'll need more than muscle." Jeremy's voice was like broken glass. "Then find someone who'll get close." Victor tilted his head. "You willing to make it personal?" Jeremy gave a cold smile. "I think it's time we remind Maya why she ran in the first place." The next day, a chance encounter. Maya pushed the stroller through the park near Lucas's estate, trying to enjoy the breeze. For once, things felt normal, Ava cooed. Eli dozed. She sat on a bench under a tall oak tree, feeding them mashed bananas. "Cute twins," a soft voice said beside her. She looked up. A woman, early 30s, ponytail, holding a baby of her own. Maya smiled politely. "Thanks. Yours too?" The woman nodded. "First one, I barely sleep, but it's worth it. I'm Jenna." Maya. They sat for a while, talking about diapers, bottles, exhaustion. It was the first normal conversation Maya had had in months. But as she left the park, stroller rolling, a weird thought crept in. She never saw Jenna's car, never saw her leave, just disappear Lucas's estate. That evening, "Are you sure she said her name was Jenna?" Lucas asked, staring at the security footage. Maya nodded. "Why?" Lucas zoomed in on the woman's face from a nearby street cam. "That's not Jenna. That's Sasha Dunley, known associate of Malenko. Works as a plant, gets people to talk, gains trust, then feeds it back." Maya's blood ran cold. "She was testing me." Lucas turned to her. "You need to be even more careful now. You don't speak to strangers. You don't leave the grounds without escort. Understood?" Maya sat down hard. "I thought this was over. I thought getting them back meant I could breathe." Lucas looked at her, his voice lower. "Not until we stop him, and not until we know what else he's hiding." Lucas's office. Secret file revealed. Lucas's investigator returned with a new document, a corporate folder labeled Project Lazarus. Lucas opened it and stopped breathing for a moment. It wasn't just about Maya. Jeremy had been funneling Hale Technologies' data to a foreign shell company, using Maya's stolen identity as the dummy signature. That's why he needed her discredited. Why he needed her gone. If Maya testified, not only would Jeremy go to prison, Hale Technologies could be implicated for espionage, and Lucas could lose everything. Lucas stared at the photos, the falsified documents. Maya wasn't just a single mom who'd been discarded. She was the key to exposing a corporate crime ring, and she had no idea. Back at the apartment, the trap tightens. That night Maya heard scratching. At first she thought it was the heater, but then she saw the security light blink twice, then go dead. She grabbed her phone, heart racing, and dialed Lucas. Before he could answer, the apartment plunged into darkness, and from the hallway, a voice whispered, "You shouldn't have come back. If anything happens to them, it's on you." 3 seconds, that's all it took. The hallway light flickered out. The apartment plunged into darkness, and Maya's heart exploded in her chest. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. She clutched her phone. The call with Lucas had dropped. Then, footsteps, slow, quiet, deliberate, just outside the nursery. "No," she whispered. "Not my babies." Maya crept toward the door with trembling hands, grabbed the baseball bat Lucas insisted she keep nearby, and inched forward. One more step, and bang! The door burst open. Maya screamed, swinging the bat wildly, until a voice shouted, it's me, don't swing." She froze. Lucas stood in the doorway, breathless, armed security behind him. He held up his hands. "It's okay. You're safe now." Maya's knees gave out. She dropped the bat and collapsed into his arms, sobbing. 10 minutes earlier, Lucas's car Lucas was already speeding toward her when the call cut off. He'd tracked Maya's security feed to see the lights flicker. Then nothing. Then a security breach alert. Someone had disabled the building's cameras. He didn't wait. He grabbed his gun, called his team, and drove like hell. Now, seeing her shaking in his arms, feeling her fear, he knew it wasn't just a scare, it was a warning, and the message was clear: we can get to her any time. Later that night, safe house. To Lucas, had Maya and the twins relocated immediately. This time, the place wasn't just safe. It was a fortress, an underground smart home buried beneath a forested cliffside. Cameras, alarms, armed guards, bulletproof, everything. Maya sat on the couch, Ava in her arms, Eli beside her, sleeping peacefully, like nothing had happened. She wasn't sleeping. "Lucas," she said, her voice hoarse. "Why do they want me dead so badly?" He looked at her carefully. "It's more than what Jeremy did to you. You're holding evidence that could destroy powerful people. Jeremy used your stolen identity to move money and secrets." Her brows furrowed. "I didn't know about any of that." "I know. That's what makes it worse. You're the perfect scapegoat, a poor homeless mom. No one would question it." Maya stared at the twins. "So they're trying to bury me. To protect a lie." Lucas nodded. "But I won't let that happen." Meanwhile, Jeremy's hideout. Jeremy slammed his fist into the wall. "She got away again." "How?" Victor leaned against the counter, unfazed. "Hale got there fast. He's not stupid. He's 3 steps ahead." Jeremy threw a chair. "I want her gone. I want her kids gone. I want it erased." Victor narrowed his eyes. "Then you'd better be ready to do what it takes. No more warnings, no more games." Jeremy paused. There was a moment of silence. Then he said, "Fine, I'll handle it myself." Victor smiled slightly. "Now we're talking." Next morning, Lucas's estate. Maya woke to the smell of coffee and the soft gurgle of baby giggles. She walked into the kitchen and found Lucas feeding Eli from a bottle like a pro. "You're getting good at that," she said, folding her arms. He smirked. "Turns out board meetings and babies have a lot in common. Both spit up a lot." Maya laughed for the first time in days. It felt strange, but good. Then Lucas turned serious. "My team found something. A new location where Jeremy's been moving cash. Offshore accounts, encrypted access, and..." He paused. "He's using your twins' names as password keys." Maya's face went pale. "They're using my babies as cover for illegal transfers?" Lucas nodded. "Yes, and if we leak that to the press or authorities, Jeremy's whole operation collapses." Maya clenched her fists. "Then let's leak it." But Lucas shook his head. "Not yet. If we move too soon, they'll come harder, and we still don't know who else is involved." He hesitated. "There's one more thing." He pulled up a photo on his phone. It was a man in a hospital gown, blurred and grainy. The man who wasn't supposed to be alive. The photo glowed from Lucas's phone screen. A hospital security cam shot. A man walking, head down, wearing a patient's gown, face pale, eyes empty. "Who is he?" Maya asked, her voice tight. Lucas hesitated. "His name was Dr. Ezra Klein. He used to work with Jeremy. Bio research, black contracts, government-grade stuff. The official story is he died in a car crash 2 years ago." Maya looked again. The man in the picture had a jagged scar down the side of his face, but even through the poor lighting, she saw something terrifying. He was looking straight into the camera, like he wanted to be seen. Lucas leaned forward. "Except now we know he didn't die. He disappeared. Jeremy helped fake his death. And Maya, he's been funding secret medical trials using stolen identities, including yours." Maya's stomach turned. "They used my name to run human experiments?" Lucas nodded grimly. "That's why they're trying to erase you. You're not just a victim. You're the key to proving it all." Maya wrapped her arms around herself. She didn't feel brave. She didn't feel like a key. She just felt like a mother. Flashback. 3 years ago, Maya remembered the nurse handing her the birth certificate form. "You're naming both of them yourself?" the nurse asked. Maya nodded. Jeremy hadn't shown up. Again, she wrote Ava Hope and Elijah Storm. Hope, because she had none. Storm, because that's how he'd entered her world. Now those names, those precious names, were being used in crimes she didn't commit. She would not let her children be weapons in someone else's war. Back to the present, Forest's safe house. Lucas's phone buzzed. It was his head of intel. "She's moving," the voice said. "The one who's been funding Jeremy. You were right, there's someone higher." Lucas's eyes narrowed. "Who?" There was a pause. Then the answer came, "Meredith Hale." Maya gasped. "Wait, your mother?" Lucas's jaw clenched. He nodded. Meredith Hale. 2 hours later, Meredith's mansion overlooked the cliffs of the Pacific. It was marble, gold, and cold like her soul. She tapped her crystal wine glass and stared at the 2 men in her study, Jeremy and Victor. "I told you to keep it quiet," she said. Jeremy shifted uncomfortably. "I had no idea she was still alive, Mother Hale. We thought she'd—" "You thought wrong," she cut him off sharply. Meredith stood. "I built Hale Corp from nothing. I buried scandals, silenced journalists, controlled senators, and now some girl with babies is going to ruin it all." Jeremy said nothing. She turned to Victor. "Fix it." Victor smiled slowly. "It's already done. Same time. Safe House Lucas. Impaced. My mother knew everything. She funded Jeremy's research, Klein's disappearance, even the illegal transfers. She was the spider in the web." Maya stared at him, stunned. "I don't get it. Why would she do this to you?" Lucas let out a bitter laugh. "She never wanted a son. She wanted an heir, someone cold, obedient, ruthless. I refused, so she cut me off." "And Jeremy?" Maya asked. "He became her shadow son, the perfect puppet, until he got sloppy." Maya's voice shook. "So what now?" Lucas turned to her. "Now we burn it all down." The plan, they had one shot. Lucas's team had gathered bank logs, transfer records, and medical data, all linked to Maya's stolen identity. Every detail pointed back to Meredith Hale and Jeremy as co-conspirators. The twist: they would leak the files live, not to authorities, but to a global broadcast Lucas arranged through a whistleblower news agency. Once the upload began, it couldn't be stopped, but they needed to trigger the upload manually. At Meredith's main server location in Hale Tower, a fortress. Maya looked at the map of the building, shaking her head. "We can't break into that." Lucas looked back at her. "No, but you can walk in." Maya goes. In Maya's heart pounded as she stepped into the luxury lobby of Hale Tower, dressed as a janitor, security badge forged by Lucas's team. She wasn't just carrying a flash drive, she was carrying revenge. Inside the elevator, her palms were sweaty. She thought of Ava's tiny laugh, of Eli's sleepy little fists, of the woods. She had come so far. Floor 27, the restricted server room. She stepped out. A guard stopped her. "You lost?" Maya smiled weakly and held up a fake work order. The guard nodded, bored, and turned away. She made it. She slipped the flash drive into the port. Upload started 2%, 7%, 12%, then alert. The lights turned red. A robotic voice echoed, "Intruder detected. System lockdown initiated." "No, no, no." The screen froze. Upload. 18% behind her, heavy boots thudded closer. Then a voice, "Well, well, what a surprise." She turned and froze. Jeremy, face to face. Jeremy held a pistol. "I knew you couldn't resist," he sneered. "Thought you were brave now, playing spy." Maya didn't back down. "You used me. You left me to rot. And now you're using our children's names to fund human experiments?" Jeremy laughed. "They're not my kids, just your baggage, cute little bonus pawns." Maya's hands trembled, but not from fear, from rage. "I would die before I let." "You use them again," Jeremy smirked. That can be arranged. He raised the gun. Bang! The glass wall behind him shattered. Jeremy spun, bleeding from his shoulder. Lucas burst through the glass. He tackled Jeremy, slamming him into the servers. The two men fought violently, fists blood, years of hatred exploding at once. Maya dove for the computer and yanked out the flash drive. Upload 24% no. She needed the original port. She dodged falling glass, plugged the drive back in. Upload resumed. 25%, 30%, 38%, then a scream. Lucas fell. Jeremy stood over him, gun in hand again, laughing. Say goodbye, brother. Bang. Jeremy stumbled back. Behind him stood Maya, holding the pistol. Her hands were shaking, but her aim had been true. Jeremy crumpled. To the floor. Upload 97%, 100% file transmitted. Broadcast initiated. An hour later, global news. Every major network flashed the same headline. $1 billion scandal. Hale Corp accused of human trials, financial laundering, and identity theft. News anchors around the world read names: Meredith Hale, Jeremy Scott, Dr. Ezra Klein, and one more, Maya Ellis, the survivor who brought them down. Final scene, safe house. Lucas lay on the couch, his shoulder bandaged. Maya sat beside him, holding his hand. The twins cooed nearby, oblivious to the storm that had finally passed. Maya looked at him, her voice soft. Is it over? Lucas nodded slowly. Yes, the world knows. My mother's been arrested. Klein was found hiding in a bunker in Zurich. Jeremy, he's gone. For good. Maya exhaled. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just felt clean. For the first time. In years, she looked at her children. They'll never grow up thinking they were mistakes. Lucas touched her hand gently. They were the reason we fought. And the reason we survived. Maya looked out the window. There was still one more step left. Sometimes you must lose everything to become who you were meant to be. Rain tapped gently on the roof of the cottage. It had been 2 weeks since the broadcast that brought Hale Corp to its knees. 2 weeks since Maya shot Jeremy. Since she held her children truly free for the first time. Since her name had stopped being a whispered accusation and became a symbol of survival. But peace hadn't fully arrived yet. Not until she faced Meredith Hale. Courtroom, day of the trial. The courtroom was packed. Press, victims, lawyers. Meredith Hale sat on the defense bench in a sleek grey suit, not a single hair out of place. Even with handcuffs around her wrists, she looked in control. Untouchable. Until the judge said, "Call Maya Ellis to the stand." Gasps rippled through the room. Maya walked forward slowly, holding her head high. She wore no makeup, no jewels, just truth. Meredith's eyes met hers. Cold, sharp, unbothered. "You swear to tell the truth?" "I do," Maya said. Her voice didn't shake. Maya's testimony: I was poor, but I had love. My kids were everything, Maya began. Jeremy pretended to care. But he used me, lied to me, faked his research, stole my name, left me alone with twins and a broken heart. She paused, her voice thickening. Then I found out the truth. Hale Corp wasn't just a company. It was a machine. It fed off women like me, poor, unheard, invisible. She turned her eyes to Meredith. You funded that machine. You paid to erase lives. You called it collateral damage. I call it murder with a price tag. A murmur moved through the courtroom. The prosecutor nodded, satisfied. Then Maya added, softly, "But the worst thing you did wasn't to me, it was to your son." Meredith blinked, the room stilled. You tried to turn Lucas into you, cold, unfeeling, but he chose something you never could: compassion. She paused, and because of that, I'm still standing. Later that day, outside the courthouse verdict, guilty on all counts. Meredith Hale was sentenced to 45 years in federal prison, As she was led away, Maya caught her eye one last time. The older woman paused. Her lips twitched into a faint, bitter smile, almost admiration. Then she was gone. Lucas appeared beside Maya, quiet. "You did it," he said. Maya shook her head. "We did it." He hesitated. "What will you do now?" She looked at him, unsure. 3 months later, new beginning. Sunlight poured into the small but cheerful bakery. The sign on the window read, "Hope and Storm, fresh starts, daily." Maya stood behind the counter, flower on her cheek, apron tied tight. Ava and Eli sat in the back corner with coloring books. This was hers. No one could take it this time. Lucas walked in with coffee. He wore jeans and a t-shirt, not a CEO. "Anymore, not really." He handed her a cup and smiled. "Line out the door, you're a hit," Maya laughed. "People like fresh bread and redemption." He watched her for a long moment. "You know, I've been offered a job in DC, a non-profit, helping women rebuild after financial fraud and abuse." Maya's heart beat a little faster. "That sounds perfect." "I don't want to leave," Lucas said, "but I want to do something that matters, like you." Maya swallowed. She wasn't sure what she felt. Love? Gratitude? Fear of needing anyone again? Lucas didn't push her. He just added, "I'll wait for as long as it takes." And he meant it. Final flashback. The night in the woods. She was barefoot, bleeding. Elijah cried in her arms. Ava was shivering. She had believed that leaving them there was their only chance. But someone had watched, not to hurt, not to judge, to help. Sometimes the darkest moment isn't the end. It's the turning point, final scene. Maya's voice. In a recorded interview, Maya sat in front of a camera, speaking to survivors everywhere. Sometimes the world forgets. People like us, women without last names, without protection. But I learned something. She looked straight into the lens. Your story isn't over just because someone else tried to end it. She smiled, soft but unshaken. They called me a bad mom, a liar, a thief. But now my children sleep safe and I own my name again. Ava's laughter rang in the background. Eli yelled, "Mama!" Maya looked over and grinned. Then she looked back to the camera. Sometimes you have to lose everything to become exactly who you were meant to be. Fade out. The end.